Hello and welcome to the Friday wrap up brought to you by David Gockstein. I am your host, Landy, and today is April 10th, 2026, and we're looking at Bitcoin here on the weekly. Now, there is some interesting structural changes that could be in store for Bitcoin here on the weekly time frame. We're going to even discuss that fairly quickly here, and I will outline what it is that I would want to see from the bulls in terms of closes on the weekly, and what would actually constitute a structure change. And I think it's actually pretty important right now for timing as well, and might be a little bit earlier than some expect, but it doesn't necessarily mean that if we do get a structure change, meaning a downtrend break and a higher low in this case, that bull runs back on, but it would be a positive sign for timing in and around this particular month. In fact, we saw something very similar last Q1 to Q2 of 2025, something I had warned about, in Q4 of 24 coming into 25. And then again in Q3 to Q4, I warned about this Q1 to Q2. And now that we have seen, of course, that structural break on a higher term time frame, other than the monthly, we will have some more to talk about, even if we do get a structure change here. And what is that potential structure change? Well, if Bitcoin closes, anywhere above 72 to 72.2, we will see a higher low close on the weekly here with a higher low swing. The next thing that we would need to see after we got a trend reversal set up in the form of a higher low would be to break the downtrend, and that would come on closes above $76,000. So what you should be watching for this weekend is closes that come in above this swing high from late March. And that's going to be at 72,000. I would say you'd probably want to see above 72.2, which is a daily range, but $72,000 would lock in this structure as a higher low close and a swing. Realistically, anywhere above last week's close, the swing higher low would already be in. So meaning anywhere above the $69,000 even, which would be the open of this week. So that would be by Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Come check on the close. If it's above 72 to 72.2, awesome. We have a higher low painted on the weekly, not just on a swing basis, but on a closing basis, with the higher low close coming in a little bit above an equal low, but essentially it's equal low closes down here at around 65,956 or 66K. And then we look to see if the high gets taken out. And I'll discuss the criteria to look for on the daily in just a moment. But if $76,000 is taken out, that would be a downtrend break. Now, you would want to see closes, not just swings, but swings are fine. We would want to see follow through on closes above $76,000. You can see that the basis band on the weekly is right there at $78,000. And then, of course, just above it is the low swing here at $80,500. You can just call it $80,000 as well. And again, here I am, mobile setup. I have the microphone so close to the box here that I keep smacking it. My bad. But let's go ahead and discuss a few more things to watch out for. So what would that look like? Essentially, if we saw the low set here, we can go ahead and look for what we would want to see out of the bulls is something like a higher high and then a higher low relative to this, and then up and away, right? But there would still be significant overhead resistance. And by the way, this is just an example. This is not what I'm expecting. Although this is, very highly likely if we do see a higher low set on the weekly. There's a few things to check on as well on the weekly here. And that is that Bitcoin is above the the actual moving average here. This is a 5-period, I believe. Simple, or is it exponential? I'd have to double check on this one for this RSI. Let me double check actually. No, in fact, it's a 12-period EMA. I was completely wrong. You know what I'm thinking of? The 5 is going to be for BBWP. And in this case, this is a 12-period, being above it and, potentially exiting the bearish control zone in this case. Good stuff. I would still want to see bullish divergences form. That's one of the things that we have not seen form as of yet. So with no bullish divergence, not necessarily the setup that I'd be looking for to go into a bull run, but that doesn't mean that we can't see a reclaim of levels overhead and a bullish drive of divergence on RSI populate from a low that is higher up. And in this case, we'll just kind of monitor and see. One of the other big things is the regular Stoch, or a stochastic momentum indicator, also coming up out of the oversold zone, positive sign. But this is mean reversion again. Whereas the mean is the basis band. That's the 20 simple moving average on a set of Bollinger Bands. Of course, this is a triple set Bollinger Band. Now it's just stuff that I've customized. For those of you that use the indicator, it's free. It's not a paid indicator. The Landy bands are just a triple set set of bands with moving averages that you can turn on and off, and some signals and super trend and stuff like that if you'd like to use it, as well as Caretaker allowed me to utilize the code for BBWP. So if you are on a limited plan for TradingView and you can only have a certain amount of indicators, you can utilize this indicator to have BBWP, a set of Bollinger Bands, and you can come in here and turn on and off moving averages, and you can change the moving average length and whether it's an EMA or SMA, and you can turn off labels, and if the labels are showing, or just the moving average, or just the moving average without labels, all kinds of stuff. Now, big thing, pay attention to the dailies coming into the weekly close. We did see, let's go ahead and turn on support and resistance zones of interest here, and that's going to be right here under local. And you can see that I've drawn out for the weekly here kind of what to look for. I did want to note something on the weekly real quick here. So even if we do see a downtrend break, right, we see a higher low set and a downtrend break, and let's say it comes up, gets above 76K, breaks the downtrend, starts to test into that 78 to 80 overhead resistance, right? That 78 is the close open low here. The swing low, of course, being at that 74.4, which we have already tested on the test to, well, essentially right into that area at 74 here in these two candles, which were rejections, and then another rejection up this wick to actually, kind of fill that out. And then it's all about the close at that 78 to the swing low at around 80,000 to 80,500. Above there, this line here of this weekly open is 82.5. So if we did see any kind of move above 80, I'd be looking 82.5 to $83,000, and then right up to the lower high structure here at 86. This was holding up the prior range on closes. Yes, we saw swings below, but on closes we saw 86 holding pretty well, and then there was the test directly on it, closed slightly above it, and then nuke right through it. And of course, then we hit the lows here. And then the next week retested this area and this swing before heading down to hit 60K. Now, if we did see the mid to low 80 region, I would be looking, of course, above 82.5 to $83,000. I'd be looking at the close open at 86 to that swing high at 90. That happens to be where the upper first standard deviation of the Bollinger Band set is right now. So that's one standard deviation away from the 20 simple to the upside. Now, on the daily, this is something I really do think you should be paying attention to, and that is that we need to see, I would really like to see a close above the upper second, which would more than likely be around $74,000. So if Bitcoin were to push towards the upper second right now, like in today's candle, which is the Saturday session is open, even though it's Friday for me still, and for many in the States, or if you're in the States, it's still Friday. And in this case, if we saw Bitcoin on the daily turn green and start heading up towards the upper second, you would start to see that push into 74. Any kind of close above there, we can start entertaining a run of that lower high on the weekly at 76. So that is also where the upper third standard deviation of the Bollinger Band set is. Anywhere above there, then we start looking 76 to 78, 78 to 80. And then above 80, start looking up to that, $82.5, $83,000. And then anywhere above there, we're really playing between like 82.5 and 85 to 86K at the bottom side of that weekly lower high. And essentially it was lower lows for the weekly on this particular trend, but where we saw the prior range kind of form around this area with some deviations to the downside. But closing inside of this weekly above 86 is where we saw the prior support. So this would be a big area of interest in here and in here. So this is going to be interesting to see if we actually see follow through with this, because we are getting some expansion of volatility, but beware if we just swing up above 76, 74 to 76 and just kind of swing up above or hit 78 and then come right back down, and especially get back inside of this tighter range here. So the initial sell off to the bounce lower high here, where the close opens kind of came in, and that swing high being around that 70,000 to 70,500 to 72.2 area, depending on your chart. And in this case, I'm using Coinbase Spot. If we do see that fall through, look right down to around $69,300 to $68,000 right here. That's going to be the area you need to see hold up on the daily for more immediate continuation without endangering the structure here on a higher low basis. So anywhere below here, and I would be looking towards the lows again, $65,000 to $66,000 again. Let's go ahead and make this purple, so we remember it's a daily. And realistically, anywhere below here, we're testing right around the $66,000 area, potentially down to the bottom side of the range here, the initial higher low on the daily over here, before putting in a lower high, kind of equal low, higher low structure, lower high, lower low, right? And this is between 65 and 62.5. Anywhere below there would be expansion right back to lows 58 to 60, and potentially more to the mid 50s to low 50s from there. So just watch it carefully. You're going to see a lot of excitement on the timeline if we do put in a higher low, and especially if we do break the downtrend above $76,000 on a weekly. So keep your head about you. There's a lot to pay attention to in the markets. And of course, I have been referencing for quite some time, since the start of the conflict in the Middle East, WTI oil, which still has a little bit of a premium over Brent. A lot of demand coming in on the, with United States oil being, light sweet crude. And, we've seen exports pick up. So one of the things that I talked about is this is a lower low daily trend break to the downside, and anywhere above 90, this 90 to 95 support, just beware that, on the way back up, which we have seen the rejections now around 102.5 or so. If we see this still hold up at 90 to 95, it would set a low at about 102.70. So if you see it pushing back to 102.5 in the Monday session, and especially closing, because I won't be recording until after Bitcoin closes its session at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. But if you see it closing back above 102.70, 102.5, then look right up to the 105 to 107 area. If it starts to run that, then we're looking right back to this higher high up here. right around the 115, 112 to 115 range. And especially on closes above 112, it's either already ran or will run, more than likely the 115 to the highs here at like 117, potentially even roping in 119.50 to 120 and more on expansion, because that above about 112 we would see expansion into this overhead resistance zone between 115 and 130. But if we do see the low side loss, this is just continuation down below 90. I'd look right to the close open around 88 and then directly to 84 to 86. Anywhere below there, it's the next low, right around, the right around the 74 to 76 to 78 region. And if it really starts to nuke down below there, looking mid to low 70s and then upper 60s, 68 to kind of 72 being the main area to the downside. Now, if that happens, we're going to see more risk on and likely see Bitcoin moving to the upside and going for that trend break on the weekly. And of course, that would be good for indices and equities. So why? Well, because we've already got a little bit of an indication on Dixie here. So pay close attention to oil, because if it does recover back to the upside, I would expect Dixie to start reclaiming some of these areas. It has hit our area of interest right here at this low around that 98.5. Anywhere below there, 98 is in the cards to the actual like just below there. You can call it 98. It's essentially 98. Anywhere below there, it's all about this low at 97.5 to 97.35.40 region before coming down to an area of support that it had deviated before around 97 to around 96. And if we do see Dixie continue to fall, oil, that means oil's falling, right? So they're pretty close. Not always going to be 1-to-1. But pretty close. But one of the things that I would pay attention to is we have a lower high trend reversal to a lower low already in place. So we haven't necessarily seen a lower high on oil. Beware if it, does head up, this would be a lower low set. You'd see Dixie rise, starting to recover around the 99.30 and then heading up to the 99.60 area around the basis. Anywhere above there, it's fair game. This whole area is fair game on a reclaim, to be honest. But beware of like $100. Anywhere above there, 140 cents and a downtrend breaker in play. We've seen quite a nice move up across Dow. Again, we nearly reclaimed the 48.5. Came shy of it though. Got front run there, but held on to essentially 48,000. This is a nice downtrend break, but anywhere below here, just pay attention to around 47,200 to essentially 47.5 here. If that falls apart, we're looking back to, upper 46s to 47 and potentially down to 46.5 before re-entering and retesting that weekly. You would want to see this weekly act as support on the daily here. To the upside, if we do get continuation above around 48, 430, 450, 48.5 region, we can start eyeing, 48.7 to 8 and potentially more. But I would kind of be conservative. Look, who knows what's going to happen over the weekend? A lot of news and things have been set up on Fridays, and then we see things happen over the weekend, and then it's either resolved or not by the end of the weekend, which can cause volatility. So, I would be paying very close attention Sunday to CME and futures open. And then, of course, where Bitcoin closes and then kind of what the outlook is. I wouldn't necessarily take moves on Sunday in futures as like that's definitely what's going to see follow through, because we could also see some liquidity grabs. But in this case, let's go ahead and take a look at NASDAQ. The upper second is now approaching the 25K region. We did get a reclaim of 25K and closed just slightly above it. This is one of the areas that I was looking for. On a retest, you'd want to see the lows and this weekly hold up right around 24.5 to 24.2 by the basis. If that is lost, you can look down to 24, which is inside this weekly level. And realistically, if that's lost, it's straight down to the weekly bottom side structure here at that 23.7 to 8 region. If that's lost, it's going in for a retest of that lower low. To the upside, above the upper second and above 25.4, that does start to open things up actually above this area here into the 25.6 to 8 region, and potentially even roping out, roping in a larger move for NASDAQ, especially if we see a big risk on rotation all the way up to like 26 pretty quickly. I don't know how realistic that would be. We'll have to watch how futures opens on Sunday. SPY, same deal, reclaimed the 675, went for our 680 region, got into the low 680s, I believe 681, 682. If this area does start to fall apart, especially below 670, there is the red line here at 667. Pay close attention to that down to 665. You would want to see it close above here. Anywhere below there, we're going for 660 to 662 and potentially down to the top side of this weekly again at 657, this kind of 10-point range, as that's where the basis band is coming in around 657 all the way down to 645 to 647 down here. Anywhere below there, it's going for a retest of the lows. Anywhere above the upper second, it kind of looks like it wants to stall out here. We'll see on Monday, but anywhere above here, we can start looking over to the 685 to 690 region up here, and that would be quite a move to be honest with you if we did see something like that. I know a lot of people are now paying attention to gold and silver again. I had mentioned this, big expansion down. We're going back into a compression. We need to see closes above 48.60 or so to get some extra juice to maybe go up and test 5K. That would be that would look pretty good. Very highly likely going to get rejected with this kind of a setup. But if it did push further, I'd look 51 to 52. If it does set a high, that's going to be below 47. And then it's all about 46 to 4,500. Anywhere below there, I'm looking 44s and under towards the low side structure in the 43s. For silver, a lot of the same kind of look that we were just looking at on gold. We had the not quite a not as big of an expansion down, but in this case, expansion down. We're getting compression in this uptrend. Anywhere above 77, we can start looking to 80 and then potentially mid to low 80s by 84 to 85. Anywhere below 72.90, $73 an ounce, we got to look right back to this very important area around $70 by the lower first. Anywhere below there, it's going to be low side structure test time around 65 to $66 and potentially more down to 60. And go in for a retest of the actual low around that 60 to 61 would be in the cards below 70 in this case, in my opinion. And that's pretty much it. Let's go back to Bitcoin and just do a quick review. So you want to see for the daily, you want to see closes come in. It's a weekend, so it's tough. You want to see 74 reclaimed and then an attempt at a downtrend break at 76. Doesn't necessarily have to be that this week, weekend, I should say. But just, it's not set up for continuation over the weekend, although we might see it. And you would see that on in lower term timeframes, even for a test above 74. We're going to test that $75,000 to $76,000 area. Maybe even more, but it's all about right around $70,000. Anywhere below there, pay very close attention to, around 68 to 69. If it's lost, we're very highly likely going to see 65 to 66 bottom side of the range here. So in the weekly, keep in mind you want to see closes above 72 to 72.2. And that would set the low, and that would be a higher low. Doesn't mean that it's doesn't mean much until we see a trend break, and then we can determine if that higher low would be the area to break the uptrending structure at that point, which would only be two parts of a full trend. So you'd have a higher low trend reversal in place to a potential higher high trend break, and then we kind of take it from there. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got for you today. Please like and share this out there. I really do appreciate all of you that do. I will be around a little bit more next week. I will be back at my normal setup, and I will be able to maybe attend a few spaces outside of David's show in the morning. So please definitely come in and watch David's show on your platform of choice, X, YouTube, TikTok, so on and so forth, all of the rest that he multicasts out to. That's the breakdown at 12 p.m. Eastern. I will typically be on around 12:15 p.m. Eastern, 9:15 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Then, of course, Monday I'll be back at you with the Macro Monday video after Bitcoin closes at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And then there might be a few spaces that I'll show up to as well. So I look forward to talking to many of you in those spaces again. It has been a little while, but I do look forward to it if I can actually find the time to make some of them, have kind of pre-scheduled at least two of them. And we'll see if we can add some more in and if I can actually make those. So I look forward to it, and I appreciate you all. You all have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe, and of course, as always, stay safe. With all of that being said, Landy out. Take care. Have a great weekend.